This is Bob Main. I'm the former chairman of the Windam Republican Town Committee, and I'm sitting here with an old friend of mine, Stephen Edelman. He's been with me for a long time on the committee. He's a very dedicated worker, and he's a very intelligent man. First of all, Stephen, I'd like you to give us a little bit of your background, your educational background.
Well, many years ago, I graduated with a couple of degrees from the University of Pennsylvania in electrical engineering and business school at Wharton. I went to graduate school for electrical engineering at Columbia and did an MBA at Yale.
Okay, yes, I know you really got an excellent background behind you, and I know you're also a businessman. I think you're a landlord to some extent. You certainly own a lot of land. I know that. So basically, now let me just ask a couple things. You're running now for the council, and there are some issues that you think are really burning issues for the town, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. First of all, what do you think about the idea of having well, let me put this a little bit differently. Let's talk about the educational system. You know, we know that 80% of the budget goes to education. And I recall I did an interview with you a number of years ago, and you indicated that maybe what we ought to try to do is to push harder, to some extent, for charter-type schools, which would cut down the expense. And I know you've had your own children going to charter schools, and if we could do something like this, we might be able to cut rather deeply into the budget. What do you think about that?
Exactly, Bob. Not just the budget, because now the state would finance the tuitions at the charter schools, but the charter school also has management by an independent board of directors. It takes the education out of the hands of our local board of education. 10 years ago, I supported the idea because even back then, our Windam local board of education had a long track record of dismal performance. In the as hard as it may seem to believe, in the ensuing 10 years or so, it has gotten even worse. And the Board of Education now talks about spending $185, $190 million to improve the school infrastructure. This seems to really border on the insane.
Well, you know,
we should be trying to get out of the education business in this town to school systems that have better track records, or charter schools who will use the facilities and with better results.
Well, the last time I talked to you, I think you had one of your daughters that was going to a charter school. I don't know if you have any other of your children going to charter schools, but I think you were saying that she was doing exceptionally well in that charter school.
Right. All three of them actually attended the integrated day charter school in Norwich,
Yeah.
Which operates independently, and the state finances the tuitions there. So it takes the burden away from the local board of education and provides an alternate education.
Well, also, you indicated to me just a moment ago that we're talking about, $180 million, to refurbish schools and so on and so forth. Now, you told me at the time that this charter school that your girls are doing very excellent in was a remade bottle factory or something of that nature.
Thermos factory.
Thermos factory.
The old thermos factory on the Thames in Norwich. And in contrast, now the school has no selection criteria. Whoever wants to go can go. But at that school, for example, I think better than 3/4 of the population makes the goal on the state tests, as opposed to the approximately 20% in the Windam schools. So they have a success record almost 4 times better than that in Windam.
Okay, what would you say the fraction of the $180 million for refurbishing, not building new schools, but refurbishing new schools, that it would cost to translate that thermostat factory into a school? Probably about 1%, 10%, 20%?
My understanding that to get the school up and running, the thermos factory conversion cost $800,000.
$800,000 as opposed to $180 million? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, and to be fair, since that time, they added a gymnasium. I don't know the cost of the gymnasium, but let's say it's $1 million or $2 million. But certainly, and they have a school that functions with several hundred students, for a very
Several
small.
hundred students, and most of those, as you say, their academic performance is dramatically higher than
Right.
that in the town of
And-
Windam,
and-
where we're gonna spend $180 million
And
on.
the school looks fine. I see nothing wrong with it. It has, and the school operates, I think, on 3 levels. It has 3 floors,
Let me ask you another question.
and
On
it looks
an
fine.
annual basis, I'm throwing a question at you probably can't answer, but what do you think that would cut the tax burden down by if we were to go that route, instead of worrying so much about buildings and more about improving the quality of education within the school system itself? What do you think would actually happen to the tax burden as the academic scores were going up?
Well, in this case, for the Norwich Integrated Day Charter School, the school population of 300 or 400 I think it's about approximately $12,000 per student. Figure the numbers, of which Windam pays approximately a quarter of that. So let's assume it's about 3,000 times 300, so that's quite a bit.
Okay, so getting into it then, you're going to be on the council. And the point here being that you're concerned about not only about the schools,
Well,
but
of
you're
course,
also
of
concerned
course.
about the welfare of the people in town. And we have a situation where people are losing their houses through foreclosure, many of them because of rising taxes, and I understand the tax bills are going to go up this time. In addition to that, of course, you're talking about not just the people who own homes, but landlords are being forced to raise their costs because their taxes are going up, which means that tenants are going to be paying higher rents, and also people on Section 8. The amount of money which is available for Section 8 is limited. I know that as a landlord
Yes,
myself, and the point is that if more has to go to fewer, there are going to be fewer people that are eligible, and there are going to be more people that are out here in the street because they can't get Section 8. So it hurts everybody. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think the recent proposals by the town council has drawn quite a bit of criticism from a local landlords group because of the increased costs and burdens it would impose. The landlords really operate on a fairly thin profit margin, so they would wind up transferring much of this cost to the tenants. Especially in this economy and in this town, this would place a real burden on the renters. If the habitat, the apartment's really that bad, at some point, tenants can just move out and save themselves some money.
You've indicated to me that you're very concerned, number one, about the people in town. You're also concerned about the children and the quality of education they're getting. And I hear so many people talking about how we need to spend more on buildings. Maybe we could take a little of that money that we save on buildings and improve the educational quality rather than the buildings. Because I think the buildings are fine, and you indicated to me in the past that down at the charter school you were talking about, okay, the former bottle factory. The point here being, that was a fine school. I mean, it was a fine school. The children were happy with the surroundings that they had. They didn't need $180 million to be spent on a building, which is probably going to put their parents out in the street.
Right, so at the, while on council, we cannot directly control how the school operates, we certainly do not need to fiddle while Rome burns and finance in the most extravagant way possible further failure.
I think we're going to run short on time here.
Right,
and I don't
I'm just saying,
yeah.
we just note that we have underserved local high schools in Lebanon, Mansfield, and Chaplin, and they would certainly have expressed a willingness to take on some of our students. We have the possibility of charter schools as well, a conversion of the existing building. So to just abet this further growth of our own school system really seems to make very little sense at this point.
Okay, I want to ask you one more thing now, and then you can go on and say anything else you want. But you're not in favor of the city manager approach to administration. Do you see any benefits that have occurred over the period of time during which we have had a city manager at great expense, as opposed to when we just had a first selectman?
Actually, I can perceive no difference at all, so, except that we have the increased expense of the town manager and a pension and so forth. So, in the absence, we had the promise originally that of improved efficiency and lower costs, but last time I checked my bills, the mill rate contingent increase and the taxes I pay increases, so the promised efficiency has not occurred. So in the absence of that, we might just as well do what cost less before. The first selectman before made approximately $60,000, less than half the salary, and had nowhere near the kind of pension or guarantees of contract. Plus, that if someone wants to change a town manager, doing so has contractual difficulties as opposed to just voting someone out of office.
Okay, one more question, and this has to do with the burgeoning of administrations, or the burgeoning of bureaucrats during the period in which we've had a town manager. I mean, I'm not blaming the town manager for this, because obviously the council had a lot to do with these decisions, but what do you think about all this?
Well, I think I don't know that we have so much more bureaucracy in town now than we had before. As I said, I noticed very little difference. But we do have some regulations that don't seem terribly business friendly, and the town council does appoint the members. Most recently, we've had in the news a sign situation with a anchor business on downtown Main Street, and it seemed to make really mountains out of molehills of something really not very important. It just sends the wrong message both to that businessman and anyone else who learns about it. Exactly the wrong kind of thing we want to do when we want to encourage business, jobs, and keep as many people employed as possible.
Okay, I think you're gonna make a great man on the council. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Bob.